just north of Dundee, beyond the roads and housing estates. There is a rise of land that looks down into a shallow valley. Trees gather there, a small burn cuts through the ground, the air feels cooler. Most people know the place as Caird Park, but hidden within it stands Main's Castle, a castle many pass without noticing. And yet it has stood here for centuries, watching the city grow around it. Main's Castle is a 16th century castle, also known through history as Claverhouse Castle and Fintry Castle. What remains today is not a single tower, but a collection of buildings arranged around the courtyard. Some are intact, others are missing entirely. The western range, once part of the original enclosure, is now largely gone. The northern and eastern buildings were the private quarters where the family lived. The southern buildings were for servants, and rising above them all, a 6-storey square tower house, with dressed stone corner blocks, a design typical of mid-16th century Scotland. This is not a romantic ruin, it is a working fortress, built for power, lineage and survival. Main's Castle sits on high ground overlooking the Dichty Valley. Beside it runs a small stream called the Dichty Burn. Quiet, almost insignificant. But across that burn stands something else. The Graham family mausoleum, and beside it, the Old Main Cemetery. Once, this was the site of the district kirk, so the castle does not stand alone, it faces its dead every day. Long before the Grahams arrived, this land already belonged to power. From the 14th century, an earlier castle here was held by the Douglas Earls of Angus. The Douglases were not gentle landlords. They were enforcers, border lords, men accustomed to violence. In 1530, the land passed to a new family, the Grahams, and with them came a new castle. Main's Castle is believed to have been built in 1562 by Sir David Graham. He was no minor figure. Sir David was the nephew of Cardinal Beaton, one of the most powerful and controversial men in Scotland. A keystone in the western gateway still bears the date 1562 and the initials of David Graham and his wife Dame Margaret Ogilvy. Their marriage bound power to property and stone to bloodline. The castle was not completed in a single phase. A horizontal beam in one of the eastern courtyard doors is carved with the date 1582, 20 years later, which tells us something important. People were living here while the castle was still unfinished. Walls sealed, rooms repurposed, stairways altered. This is how legends begin. Main's Castle became the seat of the Grahams of Fintry. For generations, this was their home, but no family holds land forever. By the 19th century, Robert Graham of Fintry sold the estate to David Erskine on one condition: that the family would retain the territorial title of Graham of Fintry, and that the estate would return to its older name. Linglathen. Names change, stones remain. The land passed again, sold by Shipley Gordon Stuart Erskine to James Key Caird. In 1913, Caird gifted the castle and its lands to the town council, a public park. In 1923, It was formerly opened by Caird's half-sister, Mrs. Marriott. What was once a private authority became a shared space, and sometimes that is when places begin to speak. By the late 20th century, Mains Castle had suffered. Some buildings stood roofless, stone exposed, timber rotted. In the 1980s, the castle was restored through a government employment scheme. Men worked here day after day, and it is from this period that many of the modern stories emerge. The workers spoke quietly of sounds, of footsteps where no one stood, movement at the edge of vision. Some refused to work alone, others laughed it off. But the stories repeated, always the same areas, always the same feeling, as if something resented being disturbed. The name most often whispered at Mains Castle is Lady Ogilvy. Not in records, not in official histories, but in stories passed quietly, generation to generation. According to local tradition, Lady Ogilvy was brought to Mains Castle against her will. Some versions say she was the wife of a Graham. Others say a relative. Others still say she was connected by marriage and became an inconvenience. What they agree on is that she was confined, locked away in the tower, not for days, not for weeks, but until she could no longer be heard. The story says she was left without food, without visitors, without mercy. No trial, no sentence, just absence. The tower at Mains Castle rises 6 floors. Stone steps, narrow windows, thick walls. A place built to isolate. The legend claims Lady Ogilvy was sealed inside a room high above the courtyard, where sound would not easily travel and suffering could go unnoticed. Some say servants knew, others say they were forbidden to speak, and some say the castle itself kept the secret. When the door was finally opened, whether days, weeks, or longer, the story says it was too late. Her body was removed quietly. No burial record survives. No marked grave lies within the nearby cemetery that bears her name, which is why some say she never truly left. Those who report sightings describe a woman who does not walk. She stands. Near the tower in the upper rooms, by the windows that overlook the burn. She does not cry out. She does not move toward anyone. She waits, as if expecting the door to open again. Modern witnesses often report a sudden, overwhelming sense of confinement. Tightness in the chest, pressure in the air. A feeling of being watched from somewhere just out of sight. And more than one person has said the same thing. It felt like someone was still in there. There is no document confirming her death, no record of imprisonment, no proof that the story is true. But there is something important to remember. In the 16th century, women did not leave many records, and castles were very good at keeping things quiet. Lady Ogilvy's story survives because it explains the feeling people still have here. Not fear, not panic, but the sense of unresolved waiting, as though something happened that was never acknowledged, never answered, and never forgiven. Mainz Castle is now a Category A listed building, protected, preserved, but not silent. It looks down into the valley, across the burn, toward its dead, and perhaps towards those who walk its courtyard today. Mainz Castle does not loom. It does not dominate the skyline. It waits, among trees, beside water, facing its past. A house built for power, turned into a park, and left holding centuries of memory. Some places shout their history, others whisper, and Mainz Castle has never stopped.